The most disturbing thing in this interview with Sean Parker, former president of Facebook, is the fact that he and his collaborators knew completely well what they were doing when they were creating technology that gave users dopamine hits so they can contribute more content. And they did it anyway. They knew in order for their users to use their technology with frequency, they had to make them addicted to it. That's pretty disturbing. Like, I don't even know, like, I guess I'm glad that he came out and said that they knew that they were doing and they did it anyway. But just the fact that he came out and apologized and said he feels guilty, for me personally, it's not really good enough for me, because look at what it's doing to our society. It is a good thing, right? We found friends and family members that we had you know, been estranged from us, or we've lost contact with, and we've connected with people, and some people met their life partners on, you know, their significant others on social media. It's not a bad thing at all. You can get jobs there. You can, I mean, it's a good thing. It's very neutral, just like money. But there are people that are wielding it for nefarious purposes. So if there are people that are saying that they knew that it was going to get people addicted, it's not good to be addicted to this stuff, though, right? It causes, you know, it's causing friendships and family members to break apart. It's causing depression, and people, you know, it's not good for our society. So, I mean, maybe there's a way that this can be done where that's not an issue, but we'll see. All right, so Charmat Palihapitiya joined Facebook as a developer when the company was about a year old, becoming a VP for user growth. He states in the interview, he stated in the interview, because we just showed the tape, if you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need a hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. It's a global problem. So we are really in a bad state of affairs right now. In my opinion, it's eroding the core foundations of how people behave by and between each other. And I don't have a good solution. You know, my solution is I just don't use these tools anymore. I haven't for years. It's created huge tension with my friends and huge tensions in my social circles. So is anybody that's taking this module, can you relate to that? Do you have tensions between your friends and your social circles because of social media? I can say I do. But it's just it's the way that it's been wielded, you know? And like I said in a few modules ago, I don't remember which one it was, but you guys own this course, so you can go back and look. But the elites, these people that actually create this technology, they send their children to schools where they don't use iPads and phones at school. So what does that tell you? Why are the people that are creating these things for us to use, want us to use it, making us addicted to it, but they don't use it and their family doesn't use it themselves? Food for thought. All right. Because of the advent of the internet, the mainstream media is not able to control the narrative like they used to be able to. Listen to the testimony of a school shooting survivor as he talks about how one news organization didn't permit him to portray his opinion in a live public town hall.
Colton, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. And before we get into anything, I just want to make sure that everybody hasn't forgotten why we are actually here tonight. I mean, we lost 17 lives last week, and
yes,
I actually physically put 2 to rest, and to me that was the hardest thing in the world to endure. I mean, nobody should have to go through this, so as long as we're taking the right steps to move forward from this and make sure that this doesn't happen again, I'm all for that.
Well, we certainly haven't forgotten. Thank you for reminding us yet again, and we think that the only way to make the country better and maybe put a dent in this scourge is to have a rational, thoughtful conversation about what to do next. And with that in mind, absolutely, you were planning to go to this event last night. And tell me if I'm mischaracterizing any of this. And you sent in, at the request of a CNN producer, you sent in a number of questions, statements that you wanted to make, questions that you wanted to ask of the politicians on the stage. and they rewrote one of your questions? Is that right?
Yes, sir. So what had happened was 4 days ago, I had gotten contacted by a lady named Carrie Stevenson from CNN. She had asked me originally to just write a speech. It was going to be at the town hall at the BB&T Center. So I agreed. I felt like it would be the right thing to do, be able to go speak my part, as well as open eyes to a few things that I thought that could make this situation a little better. From there, 3 days ago, so the next day after that, we had gotten, I got an email back from her, and she asked for more of questions rather than a speech, which I was totally fine with. So I wrote a little less of a speech and more of questions that I wanted to ask at the town hall. The day after that, it was more of just questions. She asked for just questions that I would like to ask. So I gave her my questions, and then yesterday at about 5:15, I made contact with her, and she had asked if I just asked her one question. So what they had actually done was wrote out a question for me, because in my interview with CNN, I had talked about arming the teachers if they were willing to arm themselves in the school to carry on campus. And they had, she had taken that of what I had briefed on and actually wrote that question out for me. So I have that question here if you'd like me to ask it for you.
Well, but I just want to make sure I have this straight. So you sent them a long, in effect, essay on what you thought, but they put
Yes,
their
sir.
own words in the question, and they weren't the same as the words you had sent in? They were the producer's words?
Absolutely. They had taken what I had wrote and what I had briefed on and talked about, and they actually wrote the question for me.
But not with your words. I mean, they put their own words into your question, even after they'd asked you to send questions in.
Absolutely.
But that seems dishonest.
It definitely did, and that's kind of why I didn't go last night. Originally, I had thought that it was going to be more of my own question and my own say, and then it turned out to be more of just a script. And she had actually said that over the phone, that I needed to stick to the script.
That's remarkable. What did you watch last night?
I watched a little bit of it. I kind of felt like I didn't really need to, because I knew that as soon as what had happened with me, that it was going to be more scripted and wasn't actually going to be actual questions. Then I didn't feel the need to fully watch it.
So if CNN was willing to reword your question, put their own words in your mouth, and as you said, you didn't want to go along with that, do you think they did that to other people last night?
I mean, absolutely. From what I did see, I'd seen a couple people that had asked questions before I did leave my house. And it was a little piece of paper cut out. And I know for a fact that nobody cut their own paper out and wrote their own question, especially when they were all based off the same topic. So to me, from right there, it showed that this isn't correct. Why are they all have the same size piece of paper with a short little question on it? So to
I guess
me, it was a total
what's
waste of
surprising is
my time, honestly.
you're not just some person off the street. You're a survivor of this shooting, and the point was to listen to you, to the survivors of the shooting. Were you surprised by the way they
Absolutely.
behaved?
I mean, honestly, it was very shocking to me, because we just went through such a horrific tragedy. For them to take that and now make such a big news cast over what they want to hear, it was very upsetting to me.
It's shocking to us too. Trust me, in the actual journalism business. Colton, thank you. Thank you for telling us that. It's really interesting.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Godspeed.
Classic example of how we think the media isn't like how they're losing control of the narrative. So they try and rewrite it. You know, they try and rewrite his questions. They're trying to tell him what to say, because in this situation with the school shooting, they were just pushing the children that wanted gun control, but they weren't talking about the children. There were actually children that wanted. He wasn't the only one, but there were other children that actually wanted, maybe they had their solutions. Maybe the teachers should be armed. So if somebody did come into the classroom, you know, or the school with the shotgun, then the teachers would be able to protect the students. And it's like, well, you know, the policemen can't arrive at the speed of lightning. I think, you know, maybe that was a better solution, because criminals are going to get bad. They're going to get guns anyway, right? You can't stop criminals. Criminals don't fill out applications. Criminals don't follow rules. So if somebody has a gun, they're going to, like, you know, they're going to get it anyway. If somebody's going to go, so maybe a better solution would be for the teachers to be armed. And this is what this kid wanted. But because the media was trying to push gun control, they didn't want him commenting on that. And as you know, in the modules before, we talked about democide and how, you know, there's been a huge push throughout the years to try to get Americans to give up their guns. But, you know, nothing in history, if you look at history, we talked about democide. And when, you know, when governments kill their own people, they've actually, that is the largest amount of people that have been killed have been by their own governments. So, and this is not counting war. This is, you know, internal murder that's happened within the country. And it's happened as soon as the citizens gave up their guns. So that's just another food for thought thing to think about. The controllers are very angered at the fact that the internet has allowed them to lose control of the narrative. This is why they have resorted to censorship as a way to maintain control. While mainstream media stick to their formula of skewing the truth and outright lying, social media companies are increasingly dictating what their users should and should not see and believe. They're kicking out good users and taking down countless harmless posts, pages, and groups simply for asking questions about an official narrative or presenting opinions that differ with those from the company's executives and authorities. This widespread censorship of ideas would make George Orwell giddy and is completely antithetical to the reason why the internet was invented in the first place. Right? That's the wonderful thing about the internet is it's freedom of speech and freedom of ideas. But now that they're calling for censorship, you know, I mean, it's going to go back pretty much to the way things were before. Like, why, you know, if you can't say what you want on the internet, then where can you say it, right? The internet was invented as a place to let ideas flow freely, regardless of whether someone is offended and it makes them uncomfortable. A society that is not free to express our ideas is a society that doesn't evolve. Let's take a look why free speech is important in a free society. Let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Okay.
Free speech is far from free. Commonly known as civil discourse or the open exchange of ideas, freedom of speech comes at the cost of valuing the right to express one's opinions without the fear of censorship or restraint. With the evolution of the digital age, freedom of speech becomes more controversial as new means of communication and restrictions arise. Freedom of speech is a cherished idea around much of the world, considered to be a basic human right that millions have fought and died for. But now we may be in danger of losing it. And this right isn't being taken away by an oppressive external enemy, but by an electronic generation who value political correctness and subjectivity over freedom of speech. In institutions across the globe, words are being banned. Here is a list of banned words on actual college campuses. Universities are now coming out with speech guides to create an atmosphere where no one can be offended and all words and phrases are politically correct. Ironically, the term politically correct is on there too. Some words and phrases have been banned completely, while many more words have been labeled problematic. Freedom of expression, even more so than speech, is a fundamental human right that reinforces all other human rights. However, free speech does not mean giving bigots a free pass. It includes the right and moral imperative to challenge, oppose, and protest bigoted views. And as history has shown, bad ideas are most often defeated by good ideas, backed up by ethics and reason, rather than by bans and censorship. A free society depends on exchanging new ideas, regardless of their potential capability of offending someone. Many of the most important, profound ideas in human history, such as those of Galileo Galilei and Charles Darwin, caused great religious offense in their time. The scientific revolution and the Enlightenment alone were turbulent periods of upending our traditional perspectives of religion, including our place in the universe. Astronomer Nicholas Copernicus faced fierce resistance from the Catholic authority when he discovered the Earth revolves around the sun. Without that open exchange of ideas, our current understanding of the world would be unrecognizable and entirely false. Everything we know about the world, from the age of our species to the laws that govern energy, has come into being first by free speech, nurtured by the innovation of ideas, and curated into our collective knowledge if deemed worthwhile after withstanding the test of time. But free speech or hate speech should never come at the expense of human life. While we are constantly haunted by the memory of violence and its potential, we must not be fearful slaves to safe spaces. Great ideas can never thrive in a vacuum. Freedom of speech is what both makes up and defines our social contract, enabling people of radically different opinions to live together without violence, usually. Words matter. Some words hurt. But we know this about free speech. Discourse is all we ever truly have control of. So let's never be afraid to talk about, well, anything. Thanks for listening.